Hey everybody, Todd Caponi here, and if you've been following along long enough, you know that I am a nerd for the history of sales of the highest order. And over the weekend, I was reading an article in a February of 1913 edition of System magazine. Now, System magazine, it was called the Magazine for Business. And there's a specific writer that I think is one of the top 5 of all time. His name's Worthington Holman, who grew up in the NCR Corporation back with John Patterson in the 1890s. Once he left there, he was a writer. He started a magazine along with a couple of others called Salesmanship Magazine. He eventually merged that with Arthur Sheldon's magazine, The Business Philosopher. Sheldon, as you know, I believe is the GOAT of sales philosophers of all time. But in the midst of doing that, he was also writing for other magazines. And when he writes something, it stops me in my tracks. I've got to read it. In this specific article, though, from February of 1913, so 109 years ago, like I said, he talks about the 9 things that make an individual a successful salesperson back then. I read them. They're the exact same as 2022. I mean, literally, you could take the paragraphs, plop them into LinkedIn today, and that would make a great salesperson today. There's not one thing that conflicts. And so today, what I wanted to do is share those with you, share the 9, and we'll talk a little bit about what they mean in kind of current language. But the point being that if you embrace these 9 today, you're going to be successful. And I swear you could probably scroll along LinkedIn today and just take these quotes and put them in the comments, and people would be like, wow, that's brilliant. But here are the 9 things that make a successful salesperson in 1913 are the same as in 2022. And the first one is the idea of having empathy, right? You should put yourself into the shoes of the individual that you're selling to. So Worthington talks about, before you make an approach, put yourself in your prospect's place. Try to imagine how he feels, what he is thinking, what he needs. Talk your goods over with him beforehand. Don't say one word that will bump him off the order track. And when you've sold him in your mind, march in and sell the man himself, right? So number 1 is to have empathy for the buyer. All right, you with me so far? Let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is having patience and sympathy, right? Patience and sympathy. So to consider that your buyers will sometimes be upset, right? As Worthington says, don't fly off the handle because your customer to be does. Be patient, even sympathetic. The most important thing in the whole day's work is to get his viewpoint, to understand what features of your goods or your talk jars him. Knowing this, you can wipe it out and often close the order on the strength of his reaction. All right, so number 1 is to have empathy. Number 2 is to have patience and sympathy. All right, sounds like today. Let's go on to number 3. All right, number 3 is to expect resistance and to know that that's your job, right? Worthington talks about, you must expect men to be skeptical, prejudiced, reluctant, indifferent to what you offer them. If they were not, there would be no job for you as a salesman, right? Your boss could hire a messenger boy to go collect the orders. He goes on to say, don't quarrel then with conditions that give you your opportunities and put order takers out of the race. All right. So number 3 is to expect resistance. We're doing good so far, right? They're all exactly what we would see today. All right. Number 4 is one of my favorites, you might imagine. And it's this idea to learn from your mistakes or learn from the losses, right? Every loss is an opportunity to learn something and potentially avoid that loss in the future. As Worthington says, every time you fail to induce a man to buy, leave him with a smile, but go out and sit down for a serious think by yourself. There has been a reason for your failure. Find it. Therefore, before you risk another prospect's no. If the fault was your own, correct it. Forget the failure, but hang on to the lesson it has taught. All right, so learn from your failures. Huge opportunity to make sure that you don't keep losing for the same reason over and over again. All right, so that's number 4. Let's go on to number 5. All right, so number 5 is courage of conviction, meaning to basically know that you shouldn't stop calling on somebody because He does not need your product if you know that he does need them, right? If you've got courage and conviction, that's how you win. If you truly believe that you can help somebody, you don't stop when they say no, right? Don't lose courage even when he denies you without turning from the work he has in the hand. He may be so busy that the goods you offer haven't a spark of present interest or future promise for him. All right, so have courage of conviction. Stick with it. That sounds an awful lot like today too, right? All right, so that's number 5. Let's take a look at number 6. All right, number 6 is about handling objections. And I swear, this language we still see today in books all over the place. And it's this idea that many a sale is lost because the salesperson didn't get at the real objection in his prospect's mind. We talk about like straw manning objections today, right? This idea that a lot of times when you're trying to sell something, the customer is just trying to swat you away, so they'll kind of make something up. And you're not going to win by really focusing on that. You got to get at the true objection. So Holman goes on to say, don't use up your energy, therefore, overcoming a straw objection set up for you to shoot at. Use strategy to find the real obstacle, then demolish it. Don't understudy the machine that turns out form letters by the hour. That's a great way to put it, right? Get at the real objection and work on that one. So that one is number 6. So far, exactly the same as today. Let's take a look at number 7. All right. Number 7 is about this idea of having personality, right? Personality is so important, but you've got to match it up with confidence and knowledge, right? So Holman talks about this idea that personality is the strongest single force in salesmanship, but even the solicitor who depends on it alone can't compete with the salesman who backs it up with his magnetism by demonstrating the selling points for his goods. Now, you'll read here, even the cobbler has hitched his wax ends to an electric motor or else moved into a side street shop. So what he's saying is you've got to have personality, right? That is a requirement, but you've got to match it up with confidence and knowledge about your products and solutions. Otherwise, personality alone isn't enough, right? So that one is number 7. Let's take a look at number 8. All right, number 8, especially in a market like we're in right now, is don't give up, right? In this one, he talks about obstacles, and we're going to face obstacles, and if you let those get you down, you're screwed. So obstacles were made to determine the market value of success. Remember that when the tide is lowest, it is just upon the point of turning. Many a salesman gives up on the battle just as his prospect is trying to discover how to give him the order, yet save his face. Don't ever be a bore, but learn how to hang on, right? Again, don't get down, especially when things get tough, because as he says here again, remember that when the tide is lowest, it is just upon the point of turning. Great one. That one is number 8. Let's take a look at the final one, which is number 9. All right. Number 9 is one I think I just saw on LinkedIn a couple of times too. And it's about this idea that if you don't have personal conviction for what you're selling, then you're probably going to be in trouble too. And it talks about this idea of basically selling yourself first, right? Start every day by selling your job to yourself. Unless it is a daily delight instead of a daily duty, you are not presenting the best side of yourself and your goods to your prospects. Be cheerful then, smile, walk erect, hold up your head. Courage, faith, and the happy mood that makes efficiency will follow. All right, so those are the 9 exact ones that we would face today. You've got to have empathy. You've got to have patience and sympathy for your customers. You've got to expect resistance, right? They're not going to be there ready to hand you an order. That's your job. Number 4, again, was to learn from your losses, right? Turn those losses into opportunities to get better at what you do. Number 5 is to have courage of conviction. Number 6 is to understand objection handling and to get past the straw man argument and get to the real objection. Number 7 was about this idea that personality wins, but you also have to back it up with confidence and knowledge. Number 8 was this idea of knowing that there's going to be obstacles and don't get down on yourself, that you should never give up. And then number 9 was this idea of unless you're truly confident that what you provide somebody is going to make a big difference to their outcomes, you're going to fail. So start by selling yourself. All right. So what do you think? Are there any missing? Those are the 9 that in 1913 were the keys to the success of any salesperson. And like I said, I would argue they're the exact same 9 that we would abide by today to be successful. Let me know what you think. Reach out. You know how to find me, and hope you enjoyed these 9 tips for today. All right. Thanks.